my veterinary partner told frustrated pet owners, premium services deserve premium pricing, when they called complaining about unexpected billing increases that had inflated their routine procedure costs by 200–400% during my 5-day absence at the American Veterinary Medical Association conference. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Brooks, 44 years old, veterinarian with 18 years of practice experience specializing in small animal medicine and emergency veterinary care. I had established Brooks & Stone Veterinary Clinic through transparent pricing policies and comprehensive patient care protocols that ensured ethical treatment and fair billing for every service we provided. When Dr. Kevin Stone explained that my conference absence had provided an opportunity to implement premium pricing strategies that would maximize revenue from our established client base, I simply said, I understand the desire to optimize practice profitability during challenging economic conditions. What Stone didn't realize was that my systematic approach to practice management included automated billing verification systems and comprehensive treatment documentation that would expose his unauthorized price manipulation affecting over 300 patient accounts without any medical justification or client consultation. The discovery occurred on a Monday morning when I returned from presenting research on advanced surgical techniques at the AVMA conference in Chicago. My voicemail contained 17 messages from longtime clients expressing confusion and anger about unexpected billing increases for routine procedures they had received during my absence. Dr. Brooks, I don't understand why Bella's annual vaccination visit cost $340 when it's usually $85, explained longtime client Margaret Henderson, whose golden retriever had been our patient for 6 years. Doctor, Stone said you had implemented premium pricing for premium care, but the service seemed exactly the same. I reviewed additional voicemails while noting the consistent pattern of billing complaints and the defensive explanations that Stone had apparently been providing to confused pet owners. Jeffrey, your pricing philosophy has been too conservative for current market conditions, Stone explained when I questioned him about the client complaints during our morning consultation. While you were networking at conferences, I was implementing revenue optimization strategies that reflect the true value of our veterinary expertise. The explanation contradicted our established practice policies and partnership agreement, which required mutual consultation for any significant operational changes or pricing modifications. Kevin, our standard pricing structure is based on regional market analysis and ethical veterinary guidelines, I replied, while accessing our practice management system to review recent billing activity. Which specific procedures received pricing adjustments, and what was the medical justification? Stone gathered his appointment schedules with visible irritation. Jeffrey, you've been focused on academic presentations while I've been managing the business realities of veterinary practice. Market rates have increased substantially, and our pricing needed to reflect current professional standards. I thanked Stone for managing practice operations during my conference attendance and began systematic review of all billing activity during my 5-day absence. The automated practice management system I had implemented tracked every patient visit, procedure performed, and billing transaction with timestamps and practitioner authentication codes. What I discovered during the first 2 hours of analysis was sufficient evidence to contact my veterinary malpractice attorney, Sarah Martinez, for immediate consultation about billing fraud liability and professional licensing implications. The billing records showed that Stone had systematically inflated pricing across multiple service categories without corresponding changes in treatment protocols or enhanced service delivery. Sarah, I need urgent consultation about systematic billing fraud by my practice partner, I explained during our confidential phone call. The documentation shows unauthorized price increases ranging from 200–400% above our established rates, affecting hundreds of client accounts. Sarah had handled veterinary practice disputes throughout her career and immediately recognized the seriousness of systematic billing manipulation in healthcare settings. Jeffrey, if Stone implemented unauthorized pricing changes without medical justification or client consent, you're looking at professional ethics violations and potential healthcare fraud charges, she explained. The evidence I was compiling showed not just pricing disagreements, but systematic billing fraud that violated professional veterinary standards and potentially state healthcare regulations. Stone had been systematically inflating routine procedure costs while I was attending the conference, creating windfall profits from unsuspecting clients who trusted our established pricing integrity. Stone charged $280 for routine dental cleaning that we normally price at $120. I documented while reviewing individual patient accounts. His systematic price inflation created $160 in unauthorized revenue per procedure without enhanced service delivery. The pattern was consistent across all service categories. Vaccinations, routine examinations, diagnostic procedures, and surgical services had all been systematically inflated, while Stone provided clients with vague explanations about premium pricing for premium care. Stone's pricing modifications affected 347 patient visits during my 5-day conference absence, I calculated. The total unauthorized billing increase exceeds $240,000 across our entire client base. The systematic nature of Stone's billing fraud suggested careful planning rather than spontaneous price adjustments in response to market conditions. Sarah reviewed my preliminary evidence and immediately recommended comprehensive documentation preservation and potential licensing board notification. Jeffrey, veterinary licensing boards have mandatory reporting requirements for systematic billing fraud, Sarah advised. Your documentation provides comprehensive evidence for regulatory investigation. The conference attendance records I maintained showed that Stone had systematically planned his billing fraud to coincide with my absence when I couldn't provide oversight or challenge his unauthorized activities. Stone's pricing changes were implemented during my documented conference attendance at the AVMA meeting in Chicago, I noted. His timing proves systematic exploitation of my professional absence rather than legitimate market response. The client communication records revealed that Stone had been providing misleading explanations about pricing changes while avoiding specific details about authorization or medical justification. Stone told clients that pricing increases reflected enhanced service standards without explaining the specific enhancements or authorization procedures, I documented. The evidence was revealing systematic billing fraud that violated both partnership agreements and professional veterinary standards, while potentially creating criminal liability for healthcare fraud. Stone's confidence about revenue optimization was about to encounter comprehensive evidence and regulatory enforcement that would expose every aspect of his systematic billing manipulation. Have you ever discovered that someone exploited your professional absence to systematically defraud your clients while claiming improved service standards? Veterinary practice fraud often involves exploitation of trusted relationships with vulnerable pet owners who depend on ethical healthcare pricing. My 18-year career in veterinary medicine had been built on the foundation of transparent client communication and ethical pricing policies that ensured pet owners could access necessary veterinary care without fear of unexpected costs or billing manipulation. The reputation I had established with Brooks & Stone Veterinary Clinic reflected proven expertise in small animal medicine combined with unwavering commitment to affordable, high-quality veterinary care for working families and senior citizens on fixed incomes. I had established my veterinary practice in 2006 after completing my Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree at Colorado State University, where I had specialized in small animal surgery and emergency medicine with additional training in practice management and veterinary business ethics. Dr. Brooks's systematic approach to transparent pricing and comprehensive patient care provides veterinary services that working families can afford without compromising quality, noted longtime client testimonial from retired teacher Dorothy Martinez, whose 3 cats had been our patients for over a decade. The practice management philosophy I had developed emphasized systematic documentation and standardized pricing that eliminated billing surprises while ensuring optimal medical care for every patient, regardless of their owner's financial circumstances. Jeffrey's transparent pricing policies and detailed treatment explanations provide security and trust that allows pet owners to focus on their animal's health rather than worrying about unexpected veterinary costs, explained satisfied client endorsement from small business owner Robert Chen. The veterinary clinic Kevin Stone and I had built together represented careful balance between professional medical standards and affordable pricing that served our community's diverse pet ownership demographics. Our patient base included young families, senior citizens, and working professionals who valued ethical veterinary care over premium pricing strategies. Stone had joined our partnership in 2018 when our practice volume had expanded beyond my individual capacity to provide comprehensive veterinary care for the growing number of patients requiring specialized medical attention and emergency services. Kevin's surgical experience and business management background will complement your medical expertise and community service focus, I had reasoned when establishing our partnership agreement. Stone brought solid clinical skills and demonstrated competence in advanced surgical procedures, though his attitudes toward pricing policies and client communication had always created tension within my systematic approach to ethical practice management. "Jeffrey, your pricing structure undervalues our professional expertise," Stone had complained regularly during our quarterly business reviews. "Veterinary services require pricing that reflects advanced medical training and specialized equipment investments." I had consistently explained that transparent pricing was essential for maintaining client trust and ensuring that pet owners could access necessary veterinary care without financial hardship that might delay critical medical treatment. "Kevin, our pricing policies ensure that emergency medical care remains accessible to working families during financial crises," I would respond during our planning discussions. "Ethical pricing protects both our patients and our professional reputation." But Stone viewed transparent pricing as obstacles to practice profitability rather than essential protection for vulnerable pet owners who depended on ethical veterinary care during medical emergencies. Conservative pricing prevents practice growth and limits our ability to invest in advanced medical equipment, Stone had argued during partnership planning meetings. The philosophical differences between Stone and my approach had been manageable when we maintained collaborative decision-making for pricing policies and major practice changes that affected our established client relationships. The American Veterinary Medical Association conference that had precipitated Stone's billing fraud represented my ongoing commitment to professional development and advanced medical training that enhanced our practice capabilities. Our continuing education ensures that we provide current medical standards while maintaining ethical pricing policies, I had explained to Stone during conference planning discussions. The 5-day conference in Chicago had included presentations on advanced surgical techniques, emergency medicine protocols, and practice management ethics that would benefit our patient care quality and professional standards. But Stone had apparently been planning to exploit my conference absence to implement unauthorized pricing changes that would maximize short-term revenue while violating our established ethical standards. The automated practice management system I had implemented provided comprehensive tracking of all patient visits, procedures performed, and billing activities to ensure accuracy and prevent unauthorized modifications. Our electronic health records document every patient interaction and treatment decision to ensure optimal care coordination and billing accuracy, I had established as fundamental practice protocol. The billing verification systems were designed to prevent errors and ensure that clients received accurate cost estimates before authorizing expensive procedures or specialized treatments. But Stone had apparently been studying our billing systems and client communication protocols to identify opportunities for systematic price manipulation during my professional absence. The client relationships I had built over 18 years were based on trust and transparency that Stone was systematically violating through unauthorized billing fraud that exploited vulnerable pet owners. Many of our clients are senior citizens on fixed incomes who depend on accurate pricing information for budgeting their pets' medical care, I had noted during partnership discussions. Stone's systematic price inflation was betraying the trust that clients had placed in our practice, while potentially creating financial hardship for families who couldn't afford unexpected veterinary costs. The professional reputation I had built through ethical practice management was being damaged by Stone's billing fraud, which created client dissatisfaction and financial stress that threatened long-term practice relationships. Client trust requires consistent pricing policies and transparent communication about all medical costs, I had documented during practice protocol development. The veterinary licensing standards that governed our practice included specific requirements for ethical billing and transparent client communication that Stone was systematically violating. Professional veterinary standards require honest pricing policies and client protection from billing manipulation, I had explained during licensing renewal procedures. Stone's exploitation of my conference absence to implement systematic billing fraud violated both partnership agreements and professional ethical standards while potentially creating criminal liability for healthcare fraud. The systematic documentation I maintained for continuing education and professional development provided irrefutable evidence that I had no knowledge of or participation in Stone's unauthorized billing scheme. My conference attendance records prove that Stone implemented unauthorized pricing changes during my documented professional absence, I noted. The trust I had placed in Stone's professional integrity was being systematically violated through billing fraud that exploited both our partnership agreement and our client's vulnerability during medical emergencies. Have you ever maintained professional development documentation that became essential for proving your absence during systematic fraud committed by trusted partners? Veterinary practice management requires verification of ethical standards when professional relationships become exploitative. The comprehensive investigation I conducted during my first week after returning from the conference revealed that Stone's billing manipulation wasn't opportunistic price adjustment during my absence, but a carefully planned scheme to systematically exploit our established client relationships for maximum financial extraction while I was unavailable to provide oversight or challenge his unauthorized activities. My forensic analysis of billing records and patient account activity showed that Stone had been systematically studying our pricing structures and client payment patterns for months while planning optimal timing for unauthorized revenue extraction that would maximize profits before I could detect his fraud. Stone's billing modifications show systematic preparation and coordination that began weeks before my conference departure, I documented while reviewing automated billing logs. His price manipulation was carefully planned rather than spontaneous response to market opportunities. The sophistication of Stone's scheme included coordination with our practice management staff to implement new pricing codes and billing procedures that would appear legitimate to clients while generating massive unauthorized revenue during my 5-day absence. Stone created new billing codes and procedure categories to justify inflated pricing without corresponding changes in medical service delivery, I noted, while examining our electronic health record modifications. His systematic coding fraud was designed to obscure unauthorized price manipulation. But Stone had made critical errors that would expose his systematic fraud and provide overwhelming evidence for regulatory investigation and potential criminal prosecution for healthcare billing violations. The automated billing verification systems I had implemented captured every pricing modification with timestamps and practitioner authentication codes that Stone couldn't remove without creating obvious evidence of systematic manipulation. Stone's pricing changes are documented with specific timestamps and authentication codes that prove unauthorized modification during my documented conference absence, I compiled. The technical evidence eliminates any possibility of legitimate authorization. The veterinary malpractice attorney, Sarah Martinez, reviewed my expanded evidence compilation and immediately recognized the systematic nature of Stone's billing fraud and the potential for both civil liability and criminal prosecution. Jeffrey, Stone's activities show classic patterns of systematic healthcare fraud involving unauthorized billing manipulation and client deception, Sarah observed. The documented evidence proves deliberate violation of professional standards and potentially criminal healthcare fraud statutes. The technical methods Stone had used to facilitate his billing fraud included creating false documentation about enhanced service protocols that would justify inflated pricing to clients, questioning unexpected cost increases. Stone fabricated treatment enhancement documentation to support unauthorized pricing increases, I documented. His systematic falsification of medical justification constitutes professional fraud in addition to billing violations. The client communication analysis revealed that Stone had been systematically misleading pet owners about the medical necessity and authorization for pricing increases while avoiding specific questions about partnership approval or regulatory compliance. Stone provided false explanations to clients about veterinary board requirements and industry-standard pricing to justify unauthorized billing increases, I noted. His systematic client deception proves fraudulent intent rather than legitimate pricing adjustments. Most concerning was Stone's systematic access to insurance billing systems and veterinary board documentation that he had been exploiting to understand regulatory oversight limitations and optimal fraud timing. Stone accessed confidential regulatory documentation and insurance billing protocols to plan fraud activities that would avoid immediate detection, I documented. His exploitation of professional access enabled sophisticated billing manipulation. The insurance billing records revealed that Stone had been submitting inflated claims to pet insurance companies during my conference absence, creating additional federal fraud liability beyond the direct client billing violations. Stone submitted insurance claims for inflated procedure costs that exceed legitimate pricing by 300–400%, I noted. His systematic insurance fraud creates federal criminal exposure in addition to state regulatory violations. The timeline analysis revealed that Stone's billing fraud had accelerated during my final conference day, when he realized that his window for unauthorized manipulation was closing with my imminent return. Stone's most aggressive pricing increases occurred during my final conference day, I calculated. His timing suggests recognition that fraud opportunity was limited to my documented absence. Sarah recommended immediate veterinary licensing board notification and comprehensive evidence preservation to prevent Stone from destroying records or continuing fraudulent billing activities. Jeffrey, veterinary licensing boards have immediate intervention authority for systematic billing fraud that threatens client welfare, Sarah advised. Your documentation provides comprehensive evidence for emergency regulatory action. The criminal implications were significant. Stone's systematic billing fraud involving insurance claims and client deception constituted multiple violations that could result in substantial prison time and permanent loss of veterinary license. Stone's documented activities violate state healthcare fraud statutes, insurance fraud regulations, and professional licensing standards, Sarah explained. The systematic nature of his billing manipulation supports enhanced criminal penalties. The evidence preservation process required securing all digital records, billing documentation, and client communication logs before Stone realized that his fraud had been comprehensively documented through automated monitoring systems. We need to preserve all evidence immediately while maintaining normal practice operations, Sarah advised. Stone cannot be allowed to destroy records or continue fraudulent billing activities. The Veterinary Licensing Board investigation would provide professional regulatory enforcement capabilities while building criminal cases that could result in federal prosecution for systematic healthcare fraud. Licensing board investigators have specialized expertise in veterinary billing fraud, Sarah noted. Your evidence compilation will enable rapid fraud detection and comprehensive accountability. The systematic documentation I had maintained throughout our practice operations was providing overwhelming evidence that would expose Stone's billing fraud while ensuring comprehensive client protection and professional accountability. Your systematic approach to practice documentation has prevented major client harm while creating comprehensive evidence that makes Stone's fraud impossible to deny, Sarah observed. The client impact analysis was revealing that Stone's billing fraud had created financial hardship for vulnerable pet owners, including senior citizens and working families who had trusted our practice for affordable, ethical veterinary care. Stone's billing fraud particularly affected clients with limited financial resources who depend on transparent pricing for budgeting their pets' medical care, I documented. His systematic exploitation targeted our most vulnerable patients. Stone's confidence about revenue optimization was about to encounter Veterinary Licensing Board investigation and systematic evidence that would expose every aspect of his billing manipulation while ensuring appropriate professional and criminal accountability. The comprehensive fraud detection I had achieved through systematic documentation was transforming attempted billing manipulation into complete evidence for both regulatory sanctions and criminal prosecution of healthcare fraud. Have you ever discovered that comprehensive practice management documentation could expose systematic billing fraud designed to exploit vulnerable clients during professional absences? Sometimes, healthcare compliance systems become essential tools for protecting both patients and ethical practitioners from partnership billing fraud. The strategic regulatory and legal response that Sarah Martinez developed required careful coordination between Veterinary Licensing Board investigation, criminal referral procedures, and client protection measures to maximize practice preservation while ensuring appropriate accountability for Stone's systematic billing fraud and healthcare violations. Jeffrey, Stone's systematic billing fraud creates exposure under state healthcare fraud statutes, professional licensing regulations, and federal insurance fraud laws, Sarah explained during our comprehensive strategy session. The evidence you've compiled supports simultaneous regulatory sanctions and criminal prosecution that will ensure complete client protection and professional accountability. The Veterinary Licensing Board notification strategy focused on Stone's violations of professional billing standards and unauthorized manipulation of client trust that warranted immediate regulatory intervention and license suspension pending investigation. Your comprehensive documentation proves systematic violation of veterinary professional standards that justifies emergency licensing board intervention, Sarah noted. Stone's billing fraud creates immediate public safety concerns that require regulatory protection, but the most immediate priority was preventing Stone from continuing fraudulent billing activities while investigators built comprehensive cases for both regulatory sanctions and criminal prosecution. We need emergency intervention to prevent Stone from accessing billing systems while preserving evidence for comprehensive investigation, Sarah recommended. His systematic fraud justifies immediate protective measures. The criminal referral documentation I was preparing included comprehensive evidence of Stone's systematic billing fraud, insurance claim manipulation, and client deception that warranted prosecution under state healthcare fraud and federal insurance fraud statutes. Stone's activities constitute multiple criminal violations, including healthcare fraud, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to defraud clients, Sarah explained. The systematic nature of his billing manipulation supports enhanced criminal penalties. Meanwhile, I was documenting additional evidence of the client harm and financial exploitation that Stone's billing fraud had created for vulnerable pet owners who depended on transparent pricing for accessing necessary veterinary care. Sarah, Stone's billing fraud particularly affected senior citizens and working families with limited financial resources, I noted. His systematic exploitation targeted clients who couldn't afford unexpected veterinary costs. The technical analysis I was conducting revealed that Stone's billing fraud had affected not just routine procedures, but had also inflated emergency medical services and surgical costs that created financial crises for families facing pet medical emergencies. Stone inflated emergency surgery costs by 400%, creating unexpected financial burdens for families during medical crises, I documented. His fraud exploitation occurred when clients were most vulnerable to billing manipulation. The forensic accounting that Sarah arranged showed that Stone's billing fraud had generated over $240,000 in unauthorized revenue during my 5-day conference absence, representing systematic exploitation of our entire client base. Stone's billing fraud affected 347 individual patient accounts, with combined unauthorized charges exceeding $240,000, forensic accountant Michael Torres calculated. The systematic nature proves deliberate fraud rather than pricing errors. The Veterinary Licensing Board investigation that began within 48 hours of our notification included comprehensive examination of Stone's billing practices and professional conduct by experienced veterinary fraud investigators. Dr. Stone's billing activities appear to constitute systematic professional misconduct that warrants immediate license suspension, lead investigator Dr. Patricia Rodriguez reported after reviewing preliminary evidence. The regulatory investigation was revealing that Stone's billing fraud violated multiple professional standards, including informed consent requirements, transparent pricing obligations, and ethical client communication protocols. Stone's billing modifications violated Veterinary Board requirements for client notification and consent before implementing significant pricing changes, Investigator Rodriguez noted. But Stone's most serious error was systematically falsifying insurance documentation and Veterinary Board compliance records to hide the scope of his unauthorized billing manipulation. Stone submitted false reports to insurance companies and regulatory agencies to conceal systematic billing fraud, Sarah observed. His regulatory deception creates additional criminal exposure beyond simple billing violations. The federal insurance fraud investigation was triggered when state investigators discovered that Stone had been submitting inflated claims to multiple pet insurance companies while providing false documentation about procedure complexity and medical necessity. Stone's insurance fraud creates federal criminal liability that carries substantial mandatory minimum sentences, Federal Investigator Jennifer Walsh explained. The Department of Agriculture's Veterinary Practice Oversight Division was investigating potential violations of federal animal welfare regulations involving systematic client deception and billing manipulation that could affect animal care quality. Stone's billing fraud may have compromised animal welfare by creating financial barriers to necessary veterinary care, USDA investigator Robert Kim reported. The comprehensive evidence compilation was supporting state and federal charges that could result in 20 to 30 years in combined prison time, plus complete restitution of fraudulent billing and enhanced penalties for systematic healthcare fraud. Stone's documented activities support criminal charges that carry combined penalties exceeding 25 years in prison, State Prosecutor Lisa Chen explained. The coordination between regulatory sanctions and criminal prosecution was ensuring that Stone's billing fraud would result in both immediate professional accountability and long-term criminal consequences. Licensing board sanctions provide immediate client protection while criminal prosecution ensures appropriate punishment for systematic healthcare fraud, Sarah noted. The client notification process that I was implementing included comprehensive communication about Stone's unauthorized billing fraud, plus immediate refund procedures for all affected accounts to restore client trust and financial security. We are providing complete refunds for all unauthorized billing increases, plus additional compensation for financial hardship and inconvenience, I announced to affected clients. The practice preservation strategy focused on maintaining client relationships and continuing high-quality veterinary care while eliminating Stone's involvement and implementing enhanced billing oversight protocols. Your transparent response to Stone's billing fraud demonstrates exactly the kind of professional integrity that protects both clients and the veterinary profession, noted response from Veterinary Medical Association Ethics Committee. Stone's systematic billing fraud was about to encounter coordinated regulatory and criminal enforcement that would ensure complete client protection while providing maximum accountability for healthcare fraud and professional misconduct. The comprehensive response I had implemented was transforming attempted billing manipulation into complete transparency and enhanced client protection that would strengthen rather than damage our practice reputation. Have you ever required coordination between professional licensing boards and criminal prosecutors to address systematic healthcare fraud affecting vulnerable clients? Sometimes comprehensive documentation enables both immediate regulatory protection and long-term criminal accountability for sophisticated billing manipulation. The coordinated regulatory and criminal enforcement actions that began executing 4 weeks after my initial licensing board complaint created immediate disruption to Stone's billing operations while exposing the systematic nature of his healthcare fraud to veterinary licensing officials, state prosecutors, and federal investigators who had been unaware of his coordinated scheme to exploit vulnerable pet owners. The emergency license suspension that the Veterinary Licensing Board implemented after reviewing my comprehensive evidence immediately prevented Stone from continuing veterinary practice while securing client protection from additional billing fraud. Dr. Stone's veterinary license is immediately suspended pending resolution of systematic billing fraud charges, Veterinary Licensing Board Director Dr. Sarah Wilson announced. His documented billing violations create immediate public safety concerns that require comprehensive regulatory intervention. Stone's response to the emergency license suspension revealed his growing panic as he realized that his billing fraud had triggered multiple regulatory investigations and potential criminal prosecution, rather than the simple revenue optimization he had anticipated. Stone's emergency legal motions show desperation about suspended practice operations and recognition that his billing fraud constitutes criminal activity, Sarah Martinez observed. His legal strategy indicates understanding that criminal prosecution is inevitable. The criminal charges that state prosecutors filed included systematic healthcare fraud, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to defraud clients that carried potential sentences exceeding 20 years in combined state and federal prison time. Dr. Stone faces multiple felony charges, including healthcare fraud, insurance fraud, and professional misconduct, State Prosecutor Lisa Chen announced. His systematic billing manipulation constitutes serious criminal activity that threatens public trust in veterinary care. The federal insurance fraud charges were particularly serious, as investigators discovered that Stone had been systematically submitting false claims to multiple insurance companies while providing fraudulent documentation about procedure complexity and medical necessity. Stone's insurance fraud creates federal criminal exposure that includes wire fraud, mail fraud, and conspiracy charges, Federal Prosecutor Michael Rodriguez explained. His systematic insurance manipulation carries mandatory minimum sentences under federal guidelines, but the most damaging development for Stone was the client victim impact investigation that revealed his billing fraud had created severe financial hardship for vulnerable families who had trusted our practice for affordable, ethical veterinary care. Stone's billing fraud particularly affected senior citizens on fixed incomes and working families with limited financial resources, victim advocate Jennifer Adams reported. His systematic exploitation targeted clients who couldn't afford unexpected veterinary costs during medical emergencies. The Department of Agriculture investigation was expanding to examine whether Stone's billing fraud had compromised animal welfare by creating financial barriers that prevented necessary veterinary care for pets whose owners couldn't afford inflated pricing. Stone's billing manipulation may have delayed necessary medical treatment for animals whose owners couldn't afford unauthorized price increases, USDA investigator Robert Kim noted. The asset recovery process was identifying fraudulent billing proceeds that Stone had transferred to personal accounts while attempting to hide stolen revenue from potential restitution obligations. Stone transferred fraudulent billing revenue to personal investment accounts and luxury purchases, asset recovery specialist Linda Thompson reported. His systematic asset hiding proves consciousness of guilt. The plea negotiations that Stone's criminal defense attorneys initiated revealed their recognition that the comprehensive evidence made criminal conviction inevitable, while civil restitution was proceeding rapidly. Stone's legal team is requesting plea negotiations due to overwhelming evidence of systematic billing fraud, Prosecutor Chen reported. His criminal exposure eliminates most defense strategies, but Stone's emotional breakdown during regulatory interrogation revealed the psychological pressure of facing multiple criminal charges and permanent loss of veterinary license for systematic healthcare fraud. Stone broke down completely when licensing board investigators presented evidence of his systematic billing manipulation, Investigator Rodriguez reported. His confession included admission of fraudulent intent and recognition of criminal liability. The confession provided investigators with detailed information about Stone's billing fraud methods and timeline, while confirming that I had no knowledge of or participation in his unauthorized activities. Stone's confession confirms that Dr. Brooks was unaware of billing fraud and that all unauthorized activities occurred during his documented conference attendance, Prosecutor Chen noted. The client restitution process was proceeding rapidly as I implemented comprehensive refund procedures for all affected accounts while providing additional compensation for financial hardship and inconvenience. Complete refunds plus compensation for financial hardship total over $280,000 in client restitution, I calculated. The comprehensive restitution demonstrates our commitment to ethical client relationships. The professional reputation recovery was exceeding expectations as clients appreciated my transparent response to Stone's fraud and immediate corrective action that protected their financial interests. Dr. Brooks's immediate response to billing fraud demonstrates exactly the kind of professional integrity we need from our veterinary providers. Noted client testimonial from longtime patient owner Dorothy Martinez. The client retention metrics showed that 92% of affected clients were continuing their relationships with our practice after receiving complete restitution and enhanced billing transparency protocols. Client retention of 92% after systematic billing fraud demonstrates exceptional trust in Dr. Brooks's ethical leadership, practice management consultant Patricia Newman observed. The Veterinary Licensing Board was using our billing compliance protocols as model practices for preventing systematic fraud while maintaining ethical client relationships during partnership disputes. Dr. Brooks's systematic documentation and transparent response provide excellent examples of ethical practice management. Licensing Board Ethics Committee Chair Dr. David Martinez noted. The speaking opportunities at veterinary conferences and professional ethics seminars were generating additional recognition while establishing my reputation as an expert in billing fraud prevention and ethical practice management. Brooks's experience demonstrates how systematic documentation and ethical leadership can expose and prevent veterinary billing fraud, observed conference organizer Dr. Jennifer Walsh. Stone's systematic billing fraud was about to result in comprehensive criminal accountability while validating ethical practice management and transparent client communication as essential protection for both patients and practitioners. The coordinated enforcement response had transformed attempted billing manipulation into enhanced professional recognition while demonstrating the effectiveness of systematic documentation and ethical leadership during crisis situations. Have you ever seen systematic healthcare fraud completely defeated through coordinated regulatory and criminal enforcement that protected vulnerable clients? Sometimes comprehensive documentation and ethical response create industry-wide protection while ensuring appropriate criminal accountability for professional misconduct. The comprehensive resolution of Stone's billing fraud case occurred within 6 months of my initial licensing board complaint, delivering complete client restitution, enhanced professional reputation, and criminal accountability that exceeded initial expectations while establishing new industry standards for preventing veterinary billing fraud through systematic documentation and ethical practice management. Stone's guilty plea on all criminal charges included systematic healthcare fraud, insurance fraud, conspiracy, and professional misconduct that resulted in an 8-year state prison sentence, plus complete forfeiture of veterinary license and restitution obligations that would continue throughout his incarceration period. Dr. Stone's systematic billing fraud represents a serious violation of public trust and veterinary professional standards, Judge Patricia Stevens stated during sentencing. His exploitation of vulnerable pet owners during medical emergencies warrants maximum punishment under healthcare fraud guidelines. The criminal conviction required Stone to forfeit all personal assets, including his residence, vehicles, and professional equipment that had been acquired using proceeds from systematic billing fraud. Stone's asset forfeiture ensures complete victim restitution plus enhanced penalties that reflect the systematic nature of his healthcare fraud, asset recovery specialist Thompson reported. The comprehensive recovery exceeds original fraud amounts due to enhanced criminal penalties. But beyond financial recovery, Stone's prosecution created veterinary industry recognition of systematic billing documentation as essential protection against healthcare fraud and professional misconduct during partnership arrangements. Brooks's comprehensive practice management documentation provided the evidentiary foundation for the most successful veterinary billing fraud prosecution in state history. Veterinary Medical Association President Dr. David Martinez noted. His systematic approach to billing compliance should be adopted by veterinary practices nationwide. The professional opportunities that resulted from my ethical handling of Stone's fraud exceeded anything our original partnership could have provided for practice development and industry recognition. Brooks Veterinary Associates, the independent practice I established using partnership dissolution proceeds and enhanced reputation, was attracting clients who valued proven integrity and transparent billing policies above traditional veterinary practice marketing approaches. Dr. Brooks's exposure of systematic billing fraud demonstrates exactly the kind of professional integrity we need for our pets' medical care, noted client testimonial from small business owner Robert Chen. The veterinary practice was generating annual revenue of $480,000 while providing professional satisfaction that focused on advanced medical care rather than billing, fraud prevention, and regulatory compliance management. Independent veterinary practice with comprehensive billing transparency allows complete focus on optimal patient care, I reflected during professional development presentations. The former clients who expanded their relationships with Brooks Veterinary Associates represented validation that my medical expertise and ethical standards created more value than Stone's revenue optimization schemes. Dr. Brooks's systematic approach to transparent billing and ethical veterinary practice provide reliability and trust that justify premium veterinary fees, explained client retention metrics showing 92% of major practice relationships continuing with enhanced service agreements. The speaking opportunities at veterinary conferences and billing compliance seminars were generating additional revenue while establishing my reputation as an expert in healthcare fraud prevention and ethical practice management. Brooks's experience demonstrates how comprehensive billing documentation can expose and prevent systematic veterinary fraud, observed conference organizer Dr. Jennifer Walsh. The Veterinary Licensing Board had implemented enhanced billing oversight recommendations based on Stone's fraud case, creating new industry standards for preventing systematic billing manipulation in veterinary practices. Brooks's billing compliance protocols have become model practices for veterinary practices, seeking to prevent healthcare fraud while maintaining ethical client relationships, Board Compliance Director Dr. Lisa Chen noted. Stone's complete professional destruction served as veterinary industry warning about the consequences of systematic billing fraud and the importance of ethical client relationships during medical care delivery. The Stone prosecution sends clear messages throughout the veterinary community about criminal consequences for billing manipulation and healthcare fraud, legal analyst Patricia Newman observed. But the most meaningful outcome was validation of transparent billing policies and systematic documentation as reliable protection against healthcare fraud during partnership vulnerabilities and professional absences. Stone's prosecution proves that systematic billing documentation and ethical practice management create sustainable competitive advantages, I observed during ethics workshops. The veterinary industry recognition I received for fraud prevention expertise had generated consultation opportunities and strategic partnerships that exceeded the financial benefits of traditional partnership arrangements. Brooks's ethical handling of billing fraud demonstrates veterinary integrity that attracts both clients and industry collaboration opportunities, veterinary consultant Sarah Davis noted. The enhanced billing compliance capabilities I had developed using case experience were providing additional service offerings and professional recognition that reflected superior practice management expertise. Brooks Veterinary Associates' proven billing integrity and comprehensive ethical practices provide veterinary care that exceeds traditional practice standards, client testimonial showed. The comprehensive legal victory had demonstrated that systematic documentation and ethical practice management provided more reliable professional security than partnership relationships based on convenience rather than verified ethical standards. Professional competence in billing compliance creates practice security that transcends individual partnership arrangements, I noted during veterinary management seminars. Stone's systematic billing fraud during my conference attendance had inadvertently created opportunities for enhanced practice independence, professional recognition, and meaningful veterinary relationships that exceeded anything our original partnership could have achieved. Sometimes the most systematic professional betrayal creates catalysts for independent success and enhanced ethical standards, I reflected during professional development workshops. The billing documentation methods that had exposed Stone's fraud were being adopted by veterinary practices while generating ongoing consultation revenue and industry leadership recognition. Brooks's billing protection protocols provide comprehensive security against healthcare fraud while supporting legitimate veterinary operations. Noted licensing agreement with State Veterinary Association. Stone's attempt to exploit my professional conference attendance for systematic billing fraud had ultimately created opportunities for enhanced practice independence, professional leadership, and meaningful veterinary care that exceeded anything traditional partnership arrangements could have provided. The systematic approach to billing compliance that had defeated coordinated healthcare fraud was providing sustainable competitive advantages that attracted the most quality-conscious clients available to independent veterinary practitioners. Have you ever discovered that systematic billing documentation could transform attempted healthcare fraud into opportunities for enhanced professional success and industry recognition? Sometimes, comprehensive practice management becomes the foundation for independent success that exceeds traditional partnership benefits. Standing in the expanded Brooks Veterinary Associates facility 18 months after Stone's conviction and imprisonment, I reflected on how his systematic billing fraud during my professional conference attendance had inadvertently transformed my career from partnership management to industry leadership in veterinary ethics and healthcare billing compliance. The independent veterinary practice had grown to generate $620,000 in annual revenue, while serving clients who valued proven integrity and transparent billing above traditional veterinary practice approaches. The 5,800 square foot medical facility accommodated advanced veterinary surgical capabilities and comprehensive client education resources that supported both routine medical care and specialized emergency services that had become my practice specialty through professional recognition and enhanced clinical credentials. Working with a veterinarian who has personally tested comprehensive billing compliance provides confidence and trust that eliminates concerns about unexpected costs and healthcare fraud, noted senior veterinary technician Patricia Lynch, a former emergency clinic specialist who had joined our team. The veterinary practice I had established was generating substantially higher income than my original partnership arrangement, while providing professional satisfaction that focused on advanced medical care rather than billing fraud prevention and regulatory compliance management. Brooks Veterinary Associates' systematic approach to transparent billing and ethical healthcare practices provides veterinary care that exceeds traditional practice standards. Client testimonial from longtime patient owner Michael Torres noted, "The business expansion that had resulted from Stone's prosecution, combined with industry recognition for billing compliance expertise, had created professional opportunities that exceeded anything achievable through traditional partnership arrangements with shared ethical vulnerabilities." Jeffrey's transformation from fraud victim to industry ethics leader demonstrates how systematic integrity and comprehensive documentation create lasting competitive advantages in veterinary medicine. Veterinary Practice Management Quarterly observed. But the most significant achievement was veterinary industry recognition that established me as the definitive expert in billing fraud prevention and systematic compliance documentation for veterinary practices facing partnership vulnerabilities and professional misconduct risks. Brooks's experience provides unique insights into preventing and detecting healthcare billing fraud that threatens both client welfare and professional integrity, Veterinary Ethics Review noted. The American Veterinary Medical Association had requested my participation in developing enhanced billing compliance standards and fraud prevention protocols that would protect veterinary practices from systematic billing manipulation and professional misconduct. Brooks's billing documentation methods and fraud detection expertise provide essential guidance for strengthening veterinary practice oversight throughout the profession, AVMA Ethics Committee Chair Dr. David Martinez explained. Annual speaking engagements at veterinary conferences, healthcare compliance seminars, and professional ethics workshops were generating supplemental income of $95,000 while reinforcing my expertise in systematic documentation and ethical practice management. Brooks's systematic approach to billing compliance and fraud prevention has become the industry standard for veterinary practices seeking to prevent healthcare fraud while maintaining client trust, National Veterinary Association President Dr. Jennifer Adams observed. Stone's 8-year prison sentence had concluded with complete professional license forfeiture, permanent exclusion from veterinary practice, and ongoing restitution obligations that would continue throughout his parole supervision period. Stone's systematic billing fraud resulted in the most comprehensive veterinary healthcare prosecution in state court history, Prosecutor Chen noted. His case demonstrates that billing manipulation carries severe criminal consequences that cannot be avoided through professional status or medical expertise claims. But Stone's prosecution had also created enhanced protection for veterinary industry integrity by establishing legal precedents that strengthened billing compliance enforcement and professional oversight capabilities. The Stone prosecution clarified criminal enforcement capabilities for systematic healthcare fraud and established deterrent effects throughout the veterinary profession, legal analyst Robert Kim observed. The billing compliance methodologies I had developed and refined through personal experience with systematic fraud were generating licensing revenue from veterinary practices who needed proven protection frameworks while ensuring proper legal implementation and ethical oversight. Brooks's billing protection protocols provide comprehensive security against healthcare fraud while supporting legitimate veterinary operations and optimal patient care, noted licensing agreement with Regional Veterinary Practice Network. The professional reputation I had built through ethical crisis management was attracting strategic consultation opportunities with major veterinary organizations who valued demonstrated integrity and systematic compliance expertise. Brooks Veterinary Associates' proven ethical standards and comprehensive billing compliance capabilities make them ideal consultants for complex practice protection initiatives and fraud prevention programs, explained consulting agreement with Nationwide Veterinary Consortium. Looking back on Stone's systematic betrayal and attempted exploitation of my professional conference attendance, I realized that his sophisticated billing fraud had inadvertently created opportunities for professional growth, industry leadership, and veterinary practice success that exceeded anything traditional partnership arrangements could have provided. Sometimes the most comprehensive healthcare fraud becomes the catalyst for professional development and industry recognition that transforms entire career trajectories into veterinary leadership, I observed during veterinary excellence conferences. The systematic billing documentation that had exposed Stone's fraud was serving as the foundation for expanded consultation services that helped other veterinary professionals prevent healthcare fraud while maintaining ethical practice standards and comprehensive client protection. Stone's fraud attempt validated the commercial value of systematic billing compliance while creating legal precedents that enhanced industry-wide fraud prevention capabilities, I noted during professional development workshops. The comprehensive legal victory had demonstrated that systematic documentation and ethical practice management provided more reliable professional security than partnership relationships based on convenience rather than verified ethical standards and compliance capabilities. Professional competence in systematic billing compliance and ethical veterinary practice create sustainable competitive advantages that transcend individual partnership arrangements or revenue optimization strategies, I explained during ethics presentations. Stone's attempt to exploit my professional development attendance through systematic billing fraud had ultimately strengthened my professional position while creating consultation opportunities and industry recognition that established Brooks Veterinary Associates as the Southwest's leading advocate for ethical veterinary practice and comprehensive billing compliance. The people who attempt to exploit professional development opportunities through systematic healthcare fraud sometimes end up creating opportunities for their victims to achieve greater success through validated expertise and comprehensive ethical standards, I reflected during veterinary leadership seminars. The experience had proven that professional competence in systematic documentation and ethical healthcare practices could transform attempted billing fraud into enhanced practice success and industry authority that exceeded original partnership compensation arrangements. Stone's systematic billing manipulation had inadvertently provided the foundation for building industry leadership, professional recognition, and veterinary practice expansion that represented the most successful and meaningful period in my 18-year veterinary career. Professional relationships built on systematic integrity and verified compliance standards prove more durable and valuable than partnerships based on convenient arrangements or revenue strategies that can be compromised through fraudulent activities and ethical violations. The veterinary practice that had emerged from systematic billing fraud attempts was generating higher revenue, enhanced industry recognition, and more meaningful client relationships than anything traditional partnership arrangements could have achieved. Have you discovered that systematic billing documentation and ethical healthcare practices can transform attempted fraud into opportunities for professional growth and industry leadership? Sometimes the most sophisticated billing manipulation becomes the foundation for building enhanced competitive advantages through validated integrity and comprehensive compliance excellence. If this story of systematic documentation and veterinary ethics resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button to Revenge Tales with Luke. Share your experiences with healthcare fraud and billing compliance in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's facing similar challenges with systematic billing manipulation and professional partnership exploitation. See you in our next story.